Caring for someone with dementia is one of the toughest journeys, but you don't have to do it alone. I'm Allison Schreier, and my experience caring for my husband inspired me to create Zinnia, a therapeutic streaming service designed to support people living with dementia and reduce caregiver stress. Our research-backed videos are engaging, easy to follow, and they help ease the daily challenges like agitation and anxiety so that you can focus on connection and joy. Available by subscription on mobile and TV apps, Zinnia makes every day a little bit easier. Go to zinniatv.com and sign up for a free trial today. Use the code RESOURCE for 15% off an annual Zinnia subscription.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer's Speaks Radio. I'm your host, Lori LeBay, and I'm so excited that you're joining us today. We are going to have a fascinating conversation, as usual, as we learn from people all around the world at all ages and stages of life. Stay tuned as we shift our dementia care from crisis to comfort.
Here we go. What you think about, you will bring about dementia change. We will.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Alzheimer's Speaks. I'm thrilled you can join us today. We are going to be talking about caregiving through the holidays and how do you stay sane and keep the season simple. We all want sanity. We are going to be talking with former chief of surgery and oncology pioneer, Dr. Wolfgang Spangenberger, and he is phenomenal. He actually has written a holiday survivor guide for caregivers. He now champions the most overlooked group in healthcare, which are long-term caregivers for family members and friends, and he really gets it. He brings his expertise, his clarity, compassion, and real solutions to help those find themselves running this marathon journey of caregiving. So I know you're going to really enjoy this conversation. Plus, you can download his book for free for 2 weeks. So listen in. Let's go talk to Wolfgang. Well, Wolfgang, I'm so excited to have you on the show. You're doing some really neat work, and it looks like kind of a big shift from where you were at professionally. And so I can't wait to learn more about what you're doing and share that with our audience. So first of all, I'm going to have you go ahead and introduce yourself. Give us just a little bit of background of who you are and how you got into this space.
Yeah, so my name is Wolfgang Spangenberger. I'm a general surgeon, specifically working in the field of oncology and laparoscopy. And I'm a mediator, specifically in healthcare issues. But I think of interest is here, what is my contact with dementia or Alzheimer's disease? And I have to say that is not one event. It is like a journey with several stops. It's like a development. Privately, I was in contact with dementia because both of my parents had that. My mother died relatively early with early signs of dementia. It was never really shown up. It was not blown up. But it was clear that with this death of my mother, it meant a sudden end to my father's familiar routine, and his dementia was like demasked. Yeah, it suddenly was obvious that he was not able to live anymore by himself, that he needed help from outside, and therefore we took him in our home, in our family, where he lived, and before the dementia was full blown up, he died then before that. So I personally, privately, I maybe experienced a mild form of dementia. Not there are cases out there which are much worse than what I just described. But professional, I've had quite a lot of contact with dementia as well. Not because I treated it, because I have had a lot of patients with dementia. And very quickly I needed to realize that these kind of patients need a special attention. They come to me as a doctor with some medical problems, like we all have them. Yeah, so that is nothing special. But the difference is how to approach them when they're in my hands. Yeah, procedures needs to be adjusted, adapted, maybe accompanied by a trusted person, even up to the surgery or even the operation room, which is under normal circumstances not necessarily allowed or a standard procedure, but to keep the routine as long as possible familiar for the affected person. Simple task can suddenly be a very big issue for such a people. Just take an easy task like dressing up. Yeah, when you say after you have looked after the patient, I said, get dressed up, and all the clothing is nicely laid out there, but they're standing there and they're looking at their clothing totally bewildered, possibly. Yeah, they have no clue how and where to start. Yeah. Should I first put on my socks or my tie? Yeah, or goes first the jacket or the shoes? Yeah. So it was very clear that it was not only about to give them all the possibilities to get dressed. No, you even have to go every step by a nurse or by myself with the patient in the right order, so that the task could be finished, could be completed with such a patient. So, and the third big experience was that I observed that all the relatives have had quite a high need for a talk, for discussion, for information with me as a doctor. Therefore, I decided to do a special office hour only for relatives, not for patients. Yeah, so that I have had time to talk to them. And that was quite an experience, yes. Yes, we discussed the usual medical problems and what kind of treatment would happen to the patient, but very quickly it comes to that the caregivers by themselves had issues to discuss. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that I learned there a lot. Yes, what's happened to them? That there was nobody who listened to them. They had nobody where they can talk to, what they should say, what they should do in this kind of special situations. And that made me aware of the whole situation, that specifically the caregivers need some additional tools, some additional information, which is quite a lack out of there.
Oh, that's so true. My mom lived with dementia for 30 years, so that's kind of my background, but she's been gone since 2014. But I'm now back in it with another relative, a neighbor, and a friend. And the medical system is quite frustrating here in the US in terms of meeting the needs. You are really the first doctor that I have heard who recognizes the need for family to have time, and I say that if it's the healthcare profession in terms of doctors and nurses and things like that, or placement or adult day, when they hire a service, they expect to be in the loop too and cared for, but that's not the expectation, or in the US, what the insurance companies allow. And yet it's critical to have that care partner calm and feel part of the team and understanding. Otherwise, it hurts the care of the person, with dementia. So it to me, it just makes perfect sense what you're doing. And I appreciate that the way you explained all that. You have really become an advocate for caregivers. And it's such a group that's overlooked and undervalued, in my opinion, in so many ways. Is it through your clients that inspired you to really work with them, or did it have to do with you caring for your own family members as well, or was it a combination of both?
Like I said, it was like a journey. Yes, it was several events which pushed me in the way that I looked in these issues. Yeah, so because I couldn't mention anything to the relatives, yes, like have a look there, have a look here, yes. Like I said, the situation with my own family was not so terrible, yes, because I was from the business, and yes, you can deal a little bit different there, yeah. But specifically, this offer of this hours in my office for the relatives and the huge success this had, that was really made me astonishing, yeah, or astonished me. Yes. You say it's always a financial factor. It's true. You'll not be paid for anything like that. But on the other hand, I have to say we got a lot of patience, yeah, because of that offer. Yeah. Very quickly, it makes a round, yeah, by mouth, yeah, and say, oh, you have to go there. Yes. So, and suddenly you have a huge number of patients. And on the other hand, yes, you don't lose time on the ward or in the progress then later on. That goes much quicker because the relative or the caregiver suddenly knows about what you're talking about. Yeah. Then I can finish a conversation with 2-3 sentences. Yes. And then don't have to explain everything again and again. Yeah. That was even in the first step, the motivation to do something like that. Have one good talk, and then possibly all things will went much smoother.
Yeah, and that makes total sense. When you meet with the families, is it individually or do you meet as a group? Do people just show up for an hour or two and you can...
I limited to 2 person. Okay. Yeah, I limited to 2 person and no patient.
Okay.
That was the rule. Yeah. 1 or 2 patients. No, I didn't take the whole families because otherwise I would never be finished.
Yeah, you need a psychologist in there with you for all the family dynamics. Yeah.
At the end of the day, I'm just a surgeon.
Well, and it makes so much sense to do that. I mean, I just think of surgeries. I do a few support groups, and of course, I'm very active in the communities, but you know, a lot of times people have drainage tubes or catheters, or they're hooked up to IVs. All of those things get really complicated. You talked about the dressing and stuff, but it's the whole procedure and keeping them calm and understanding, and which I don't think our medical profession, and again, I can only speak from the US here, does a good job at keeping them calm. It's just kind of wonk, wonk, wonk. This is the way we've always done it. This is the way we're going to do it. And there are some clinics and hospitals that are becoming more dementia friendly and have a little bit more training, but I still think we have a long ways to go. But, you know, keeping that family calm and letting them be heard and educating them, that goes so far. I mean, it's just in terms of lessening their anxiety over everything, which then can be mirrored back by the person with dementia. I mean, it's it's very simple and basic and kind of like a common sense thing, but most people, you know, most professionals and institutions don't go that line of common sense.
Need a daily spark of hope and direction? Let the Daily Bible app from Salem Media be that spark. This free Android app delivers an uplifting verse each morning, plus reading plans, devotions, and trusted podcasts from leaders like Joyce Meyer and Rick Warren. Prefer to listen instead? The Daily Bible app reads verses, reading plans, and chapters aloud, handy for the headphones moment of your day. Choose from versions like ESV, NIV, KJV, and more, and bookmark favorites to revisit later. Share inspiring messages with loved ones right from the app. Feel God's presence in every notification. Search for Daily Bible app on Google Play and begin your day with hope, purpose, and peace.
But it's in Germany the same. So it's an unusual way to go. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a wonderful way to go. Now, you write a lot about, caregiving isn't about perfection. And I always have to laugh at that, because I always say when people become, care partner, caregiver, carer, whatever you want to call it, they almost up their standards. Where life was perfect before and there were never any issues, and they, and for themselves, they want to be perfect. They want to do everything. And it's like, perfection is rare in this world, and it's hard to produce because everything changes. And you talk about presence. Don't worry about perfection, worry about, being present. And how does that really look, in real life? How do people get through the chaos, especially with the holidays coming up and stuff? There's a lot of rigmarole, and you're being pulled, you think you got a path and you're going this way and you get pulled over that way. And, routines kind of, get crushed. And routines are so important a lot of times for families to keep things calm. So how do they manage that? How do they go from perfection to presence?
I think at the first step is a mindset. Mm-hmm. Is a mindset, yeah. To say not everything is perfect is okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. So that is where it starts, and mishaps just happened, yeah. They happen always in life, and they happen maybe specifically during the whole holiday season. Mm-hmm. But the holiday season is just like a magnifying glass, yeah. So it's more and more obvious, yeah. So it happened in every family, yeah, that the turkey suddenly is tough, yeah. The trees are tilted or the lights are tangled, yeah. My first advice is laugh it off. Just take it as it is, yeah. Nobody, even it makes maybe a little bit later a nice family anecdote. Yeah. Can you remember? Yeah. So, and everybody will laugh about it. So humor is a very, very important issue to handle imperfection. Yeah. Which is life at the end of the day. Yeah. Life is not perfect. Yeah. And much more important is the present, or I would call it the togetherness. The togetherness of the family, as well as the togetherness with the affected, maybe with the demented person. It's like time spent together. Maybe compared with the child, yeah? You can spoil a child with very expensive presents. These expensive presents are maybe perfect, but the child will not remember that. The child will remember if the daddy was there, if the mom hugged her, or if there was a nice story to tell. And that is what I call togetherness. Yeah.
Or they got a big box and they play in that instead of with the toy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So our dementia patients are very often living in the past. So take advantage of that, because you know that. So go there to the memories. Yeah. Maybe look at old photographs, old movies, familiar music, yeah? Or even tell each other the family anecdotes I just told about it, yeah? And they are a part of it, and it's time spent together, time lived together. And I think this togetherness, that is much more important than the perfection.
Oh, I agree. I have a philosophy. I kicked 2 words to the curb. One is perfection, because it gives you a reason to procrastinate and not go forward. And it gives you a reason to beat yourself up, because then it looks like a failure when you don't meet your own standards. And, one of the things I learned is those detours in life, those things we have to adapt, are so precious. And I loved when you mentioned about laughter, because I think sometimes people think especially when there's a chronic illness, that you can't laugh, but laughter's at the core of our relationship. It ties us together. It lightens the load. It's a great story later on down, that can be passed on, and a wonderful memory to have as the person maybe declines more in their disease or even pass, if you store those little gems of laughter, they'll bring you joy for many, many years. I know I found that with my own mom. I'll never forget. And this was a Christmas. We went up to the lake, and as we were getting in the door, my mom slipped and fell in the foyer. And we couldn't get her up for anything. And my mom's on the floor laughing. I'm laughing. My daughter's laughing. We're trying to get her up. We can't get her up. My husband comes in and he's just wired. We got to get her up. And it was just horrible. And what's going to happen? And so Tom and I, get behind her and we're trying to lift her up. And she's a heavier woman. And my mom has her feet and she's like walking up the closet door. And so I tell my daughter, hit her behind the knees, so her legs drop down, because she's literally walking up the floor. And we are laughing so hard. My husband's just getting freaked out. And I'm like, Tom, that is one of the funniest memories of us. And, my mom was laughing. She wasn't scared. It kept her calm. And we finally got her up, because when we asked her to bend her knee and just get up, she'd go, okay. And she literally would have her finger and go, okay, I'm bending my knee. It's like, that's not working, so we got to do something else. But it's just, you can freak out or you can stay calm, which helps everybody. And I love that, deal about presence. I talk a lot about, what do you want? Tears, fears, or joy? And, the tears are about what we feel we've lost and what we don't have anymore. The fears are all the stuff that's coming. And the joy, of course, everyone picks, and that's in the present moment. That's the only time you can create it. It's the only time you can identify it. So, if we're scared or we're fearful, or if we're sad, we're missing all of those things that are happening that maybe we didn't pick up on before because we were too busy being busy in other areas of our lives. And I just think that, that being present, like you said, that togetherness of, and maybe it's just sitting on the couch, not saying a word, but just reveling in someone else's presence, finding that peacefulness, that kindness, that connection. That I think we overlook. I just think that can make not just the holidays, but everyday life so much easier, when we get back to our core. So
it doesn't have to be spectacular. Yeah.
No,
not at all. Yeah.
And I found the littler things are what really stick in my heart. It's not the big flashy stuff. That's not important anymore. It's really those things that, it might be a glint in their eye. It might be a comment that they make, or, grabbing for your hand to hold. Those are the things that don't melt away. And I think give a calmness to people for many, many years. Now, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just one short comment still to the word perfection, or perfectionism. I don't want to give the whole psychology definition or so, but why is that a perfectionism so important, so heavy during the holiday season? Yeah, and I think we have then to bring the words expectation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this expectation are nourished by several things, and we are torn in these expectations by ourselves. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have what we want to achieve by ourselves, and then we have the expectation of the family or relatives, or even of the society. Mm-hmm. And the third expectation is maybe even the social media or movies. Yes. Everything looks nice, funny, and effortless when you watch them. Yeah. So whatever, look at Instagram and so what they do with decorations. Sometimes it's unbelievable. Yeah. And then we are sitting there and what did we do? Yeah. So, and you feel guilty. That is what you have. I think you have to push away. Yeah. And I say always simplify, reset your expectations, really ask yourself, is that reasonable? And then there's one other issue, what I say, decline invitations which take energy from you.
Yep.
We
And
all
there's a
know
lot of
them,
them.
yeah? I
Yeah.
call them sometimes the vampire, yes?
Yeah.
Yeah? They just drain your energy, yeah? You are allowed to decline such an invitation and say, oh, I come after Christmas, or I come after the holiday season, I come after Thanksgiving. That's fine.
Yeah, it doesn't all have to be done in the smaller, quainter gatherings. Are much more powerful because they don't trigger overstimulation, not only for the person living with dementia, but the caregiver as
Yeah,
well.
I'm talking about the caregiver here.
Yeah, because it's everybody melds together, and there are those gatherings where for the caregiver they'll just be nitpicked, in terms of how they're caring for somebody. And well, I don't see what you see. They look perfectly fine to me. I don't know what you're complaining about. That's one of the things. One of the questions I want to talk to you about, this kind of rolls into that, is that armchair quarterback, where siblings and friends can really spike the tension, especially during the holiday with their judgment or their advice, and yet they really don't understand, haven't taken enough time to really be around to know the true facts. And they prefer, and this is my opinion, they prefer to rely on what they see and what they hear in very small little increments, of a day. And I think it's probably a self-defense thing where they don't want to believe it's this bad. And so they're going to tell you it's not, because then they might be called to do something, or they might be called to feel something that they don't want to address.
I say always we should be getting careful when words like you should, you must come in place. Yes, that is always, I call it where my red flag goes up. Yes, and oh, wait a moment. Yeah. And it's a little bit like you say, it's a self-defense maybe, of a sibling, because he only wants to see, or he only sees what he wants to see. Yeah, but not necessarily the reality, which when you're living there 24/7, it's maybe a complete different story, than, like you said, during a holiday season.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And a lot of times, people with dementia, they kind of belly up to the plate, when they're going to get together with everybody, and even the care partners, like, shocked, like, wow, they did really well. They really, exactly. This is not real life. This is not what typically goes on 24/7. And they're happy for those moments, but it's the kickback of, you're crazy.
Yeah.
No one else is seeing that, and it's like, okay, why don't I leave and you stay for a day or two, and you might have a little bit different.
You go to normal life. Yes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, there's so much of that. And I do feel, the expectation, for a caregiver themselves, typically when they're in that role, not everybody, they want to do good. And so they set their standards high. I remember for myself thinking, my mom and dad were always there for me, and I wanted to be there, fully for them. I wanted to be that person for them. I didn't want to let them down in any fashion. And yet when I look back, there were plenty of times my folks let me down. They didn't meet my expectations as a kid, but that's not what you remember. You remember the times that were good, or I did anyways, and I wanted to be there for them. And like you said, the family and society, just this picture perfect thing for the advertisements, the social media, I think is huge strain. And I think it's doing a lot of damage, not just for people caring for somebody, but just in general with realities, and trying to set this standard that life is perfect. Life ain't perfect. It never was. It never will be. That's just kind of part of it. And, you talked about, kind of reframing that perfection to presence and togetherness. I think another word that we have to reframe is failure, because to me, that's what we're scared of. If we're not perfect, then we're failing. And to me, that's my second word I kind of kicked to the curb, because those were learning lessons for me of like, oh, it's not going to work this way anymore. How do we adapt, which you talked about before? Yeah. That's what we've done all our lives since we've been little. We adapt to different people, different situations, different skill sets. And yet that's undervalued and not talked about. And that's a key to resilience, I think, in life, is being able to adapt to different situations, looking for what's really the important outcome here. Is it just a flash of a picture I can post on social media, or I have proof it went well? Does that really say what's important from a soul or a heartfelt level?
Want to keep God's word with you wherever you go? The King James Bible Study KJV app by Salem Media makes it easy to read, study, share, and pray daily with the timeless KJV translation. Enjoy features like offline access, audio Bible listening, smart search, and tools to highlight, bookmark, and take notes, all designed to keep your Bible study simple and organized. Best of all, it's free to download in the Google Play Store. Grow in your faith every day. Search for King James Bible Study KJV and download the app today.
In terms of connection, I don't think so. But we've been taught that it is.
And a lot of people have already experience with that term mistake, or we don't call it failure. I would call it a mistake. We all maybe are parents. We have children. Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't a perfect dad. Yeah. I made mistakes. Yeah. But still my kids are raising up in a nice way, and they're successful. Yeah. So, and they never talk about my mistakes, really. Yeah, maybe in a quiet hour without me. I don't know. Yeah. So, yeah, like I said, it's part of life. We learn by our mistakes. I will never do it again. Yeah, whatever the conclusion is.
Yep. Yeah, very, very important. When something comes up, let's say caregivers with siblings, and they're feeling kind of attacked, by the you should have, you could have, you must, you have to type words. What do you say to those caregivers to maintain their sanity and not, because it feels like bullying. Especially you're working so hard, and it just seems like they don't have a clue what's really going on here. And it really feels like an attack against them, personally. What do you say to that caregiver?
Okay, there are a lot of different situations possible. Yeah. Yes, so it's a little bit difficult to answer to all of them. Then, at the end of the day, I would say you have to set boundaries. Yeah, you have to say, up to here, but not further. But I think the main topic then is to do that in a gentle and calm way. Yeah. So don't start an accusation to your brother or to your mother, whoever it is. Yeah. No, that will be not very successful. No? Tell them what you feel in that situation and what you would be like to be done that this situation can be solved. Yeah. And that in a quiet, in a calm way. Okay. And then I say always, if that doesn't work, okay, you need always an escape door. Yeah. So when it's getting out of control, go for a walk. Yeah. Or put on some calm music, whatever it is. Yeah. It depends on the whole circumstances. Yeah. But my favorite would be go to a walk, have an oxygen shower, come back after 15 minutes. Yeah. And don't touch the issue at the moment and say, we will discuss that in 2 weeks.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's great advice, because otherwise it can just escalate. And, especially with the holidays, people can be, drinking a little too much, and, all of those things can come into play and change dynamics as well, which isn't healthy. for anyone. And then, if you've got your person with dementia there, it's going to irritate them, and it's going to make it worse when you do go home, because they're not necessarily going to understand what all happened depending on where they're at in the disease process too.
Yeah.
And if it happens to be a mom or a dad, typically they hate it when the siblings are fighting, when their kids are fighting. And so, yeah, it can add a lot of layers on that. But sometimes it's hard to stay calm, especially if you're tired. A lot of times people overdo it and they're just exhausted from the holidays, but then you add dementia in there and they're really tired. And so it can be a little easier sometimes to snap. And
I mean, specifically, if you speak now about the elderly, the patient with dementia or with the Alzheimer's disease, I would always give the advice not to disturb their routine too much, even not during the holiday season. Yeah. So let's say their bedtime is 9 p.m. Let them go to bed at 9 p.m., even if the whole family is still in the living room. Mm-hmm. When he or she is in bed, then the family can still celebrate the holiday seasons and can go on. Yeah. But yeah, the affected person is much quieter when they still can stick to their own timing.
Yeah. I know as my mom's disease progressed, she moved into a community. And it was really hard. Everybody wanted to hold on to the family traditions. And it's like, that's not going to work for her. So I was able to convince family, let's go over and have the holiday with her there. And then we can leave and we'll go to my house. And then the family can continue to celebrate. Yeah. And everyone was happy. But boy, it took a lot of convincing initially that was even going to work. And yet, after the fact, everyone's like, well, I'm glad we got to see mom and this makes sense. It worked really nice, but man, changing those traditions, or if you've got a really big family, sometimes it's just doesn't work to bring them out in those huge groups. It gets too busy and, it gets too overwhelming. And the only one that seems to be picking up on those signs, because they're used to doing it day in and day out, is the caregiver. And everyone else is just visiting with everyone else, not sensing they're notching up, with being uncomfortable. And I think letting family know too, that is there a quiet room that maybe I can take this person to if I feel this is happening, and you guys can be aware of that and kind of see how it's dealt with. Or maybe you go for a walk with them and you both get the heck out of there for a while, to kind of get centered again and go, okay, we can go back in now. I mean, I've had those moments as well, and again, it's things we don't talk about, but it's really important, and keeping to those routines is essential. Now you have a book that you are going to make available for free for 2 weeks. Can you tell us the title of the book? And
the title of the book is the Holiday Survival Guide for Caregivers. It's specifically addressing that time of the year. It's just a little booklet, but like you said, it's available. And when you go on my website, that's Wolfgang Spangenberger without spacing, .com/sanity. Then you can get the book as a PDF file for free for a limited period of time.
They can always pick it up on Amazon as well, either as a book or a Kindle version. Which is nice too. So thank you for offering that to our people.
And there are even other books as well, but you can see that when you go to the website.
Okay. I also just want to give a quick plug to Q for Good. They are my webmaster, who I absolutely adore. And I know a lot of times the end of the year, people are making changes and stuff. So check them out. They actually listen to you. If you're like me and you hate the black hole or the blue screen, they take care of all that stuff for you. All the updates that, need to happen where you're afraid to, if you're like me, afraid to push the button, because what if I push the wrong thing or do the wrong thing? They are absolutely amazing. And I always like to give credit where credit is due, because I've had some not so helpful webmasters over the year, which, just increase that stress there. Well, let's get back to, I've got a few more questions for you, if you don't mind.
I don't mind. Yeah, that's
I'd
fine.
love to ask, so many caregivers are dealing with loved ones, struggling with Alzheimer's and dementia, like we talked. Are there some specific things during the holiday that you recommend that we haven't talked about yet? Are there a few other things that you'd like to mention?
Yeah, I like always to talk a little bit about the issue of compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is how we approach things. Yeah, and at the horizon, I have always that wording or the event of burnout. Yeah, that is what I want to prevent. And our compassion is one very important ingredient, yeah, to protect us from the burnout. So I make the difference between the hot compression and the steady compression. So possibly you will ask me now, what the heck is he talking about? Yeah, so the situation we can compare, for example, and then we have maybe a much better idea about when you're training for a sports event, yeah, or when you're learning to play an instrument.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get that instrument, when you go first time to the sport, yeah, you're possibly glowing fiercely at the start. Yeah, and you go with all your willingness and with all your power in it, yeah, and it takes up much too much of your energy and of your time. The problem is that this light, this energy will only flicker later because you cannot stay on it, yeah? Some people call it even they fight something, yeah? So even this kind of terminology is in this context sometimes coming up. I'm talking more about a steady compassion. That is what I would suggest to do. Yes, it's about like a light which is shining steadily. It's the same kind or the same calm attention and care you can offer every day. That is the important thing, without getting exhausted. Yeah. And then comes always the question, how can you reach that? How can that happen? It's relatively easy. It's about simplify the routines, even your routines. Yeah. Remove distractions. Yeah. Say goodbye to your multitasking. Yeah. Because it will just distract you. Yeah. Reduce or reset your expectations. We talked about that earlier already. The expectations need to be restructured, yeah? Practice self-care, look after yourself, and decide what is important to you. Where should your light shine?
Okay.
Yeah, so that would be just an easy way how to go there. Yeah.
Yeah, the simplify and removing the distractions. I don't think we realize how distracted we are. And I used to, I'm kind of more of a type A personality. I think I've notched it down a little bit from when I first started, but I used to like make all these plans and detours. If this happens, we're going to do this and this and this. And I didn't realize I was just keeping myself busy. And, if something hit the fan and we were going to have a detour, I was going to replan everything because in the meantime, I've learned different techniques. So it was really a waste of time, and it pulled me away from being present, and that togetherness, but it was a protection that I was doing initially. And you talk about self-care, I don't think people really know what that means. We toss it around, but like, how do they apply that? What does that really look like with, and I think people are worried about being viewed as selfish, if they're trying to care for themselves as well.
No, self-care has nothing to do with selfish. Yeah. Let's say it this way. You cannot drink anything from an empty cup. Yeah. Or you like a battery, and even a battery needs to be loaded from time to time. Otherwise it's empty. Okay. And this self-care is this loading of the battery. So you're looking after yourself. Yeah. So ask yourself, what do I need? Yeah. Self-care means to everybody a little bit different things. Yeah. There is not the self-care. Yeah. You cannot order it by Amazon. Yeah. So that's impossible. Yeah. So, but maybe it's for you time for yourself. Maybe to get some other ideas. Yeah. Maybe to go to a concert. Yeah. It can mean to be with other people. Keep your social contacts. Don't withdraw from your social life. Yeah. What's about your hobbies? Yeah. When was last time you were with a hairdresser? So I have a lot of questions, which means self-care. Yeah. Are you eating properly? Or you are just eating, standing, yeah, and running already through the door with a cup of coffee? Yeah. So no, that is not self-care. Yeah. Take time and take care for yourself.
Yeah, I think
it's a big issue. Yeah, that would a little bit go over here our conversation today.
Yeah, it is huge, and I know in my support groups I hear from people who don't do self-care, because they don't feel like they should. They're caring for someone else. How can they take time? Because they view it as selfish, or that people are going to view them as not taking care of their person.
This Christmas, give more than just a gift. Give encouragement, inspiration, and joy. In the Crosswalk Holiday Gift Guide, you'll discover a curated collection of meaningful books and devotionals that celebrate faith, family, and the real reason for the season. This Christmas, we invite you to share comfort, quiet, or excitement with each person on your gift list. From beautifully illustrated Bibles and devotionals to novels and picture books, this guide holds the perfect book for every reader, including yourself. So stuff those stories into stockings, wrap collections with care, tuck a book or two into your own nightstand, and join us in celebrating the wonder of reading this Christmas. Explore the Crosswalk Holiday Gift Guide and find something special for everyone on your list. Visit crosswalk.com/gift guide today.
And so it is complicated, and it might be, I just need to sleep for a day. I mean, it doesn't have to be, this big fancy thing. But I also hear from people after, let's say someone passes, or maybe they move into a community, that they don't know who they are anymore. And I was one of those people. Like, people would go, well, what do you like to do? Well, heck, if I know.
Yeah, maybe one of the biggest difference between self-care and selfishness is that self-care is planned. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's planned, and you first organize how it is looked after the affected person, so that you can get a space, or even schedule your self-care time as an appointment in your diary, and that someone else is taking over. Selfishness is when you don't care what's happened in the meantime about the affected. You just do it. Oh, that is not what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you do, and I did not do that well at all. And I was lucky enough to have friends, and my audience has heard this story before, but I know we always get new listeners.
Yeah.
And I did not know I was running on empty, because I'm too busy being busy, And I think that happens to many of us. And my friends would call every week and say, Lori, come on and join us for a cup of coffee. And I'm like, I can't. And one day I remember leaving my parents, and I was just feeling really overwhelmed. And finally I said, okay, I'll come for 10 minutes. It was like, roll the red carpet out. I'm going to bless you with my presence. And the only reason I was going in my head at that time was to get them to stop calling me, because it was another task that I didn't have time to do. Mm-hmm. And I ended up staying for 2 hours, and we laughed and we cried, and I never missed a coffee because I did not know how empty I was until they filled me back up. And I think that that's a real common problem. We get used to the emptiness or the fatigue or whatever it is, that's not filling us with joy because we're too busy being busy. Because most care partners, we don't give up anything to care for somebody. It's just another added task. Yeah. And, but it's so critically important, because the other thing I hear from people after the fact, when their care journey is over, someone will say, are you going to go get your hair cut? I don't even know what's in style. Why don't you go buy some new clothes? What are people wearing? I've been wearing my sweatpants. I don't do much anymore. I don't go out. And they're serious. They're just, people say, what do you like? I don't know. I know the journey has changed me, and I haven't maintained myself. And so I really don't know what I like anymore. And so to me, then it's a time, it's late, but it's a time then to explore, what do you like? What do you want your world to look like? But, you're much better off doing that self-care, working it in and being realistic. Even when you think you can handle it, there'll come a day you can't, and you need to be able to, reach out. And that's hard for caregivers, I think, to reach out and ask for help. Because they have in the back of their mind this word of failure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That is what keeps them back. But like you said, it's not a failure. No, it's wisdom. Yeah. Yeah. It's because, like you said, these stories are going 5-10 years, or even longer. That's the reason why I call it always this unexpected marathon. Yeah. There is no end in sight. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You don't know when it will be finished. No, and like I said, like with my mom, 30 years, people go, oh, and their first response is, oh, I can't last that long, but sometimes it does. I know a lot of people who are in this 10 and 20 years, and the more we do early diagnosis, the longer those times are going to be. But a lot of those times can still be very joyful and well-lived, for all people. But, to me, the key is, adapting and focusing on what you need in life. I think the other thing that caregivers do is they set up to make sure the person with dementia has a good time or a good life, instead of duplicating things they both enjoy, which is a real simple twist, but it makes a huge difference. Huge difference. Yeah. With that. So, oh gosh. Well, this has been a wonderful conversation. Anything else that we haven't touched base on?
Maybe the marathon story by itself is quite funny, because is that what I'm trying to write? The first marathon took place in London, 1908. Oh, wow. And I don't know if you know the story. An Italian runner, that was Pietri, came in the stadium as the leading person, and he was completely exhausted. Yeah, and he collapsed in the stadium, and he could only go over the finish line with the help of 2 officials. So he was disqualified afterwards. Yeah, and another runner, that it was an American, Johnny Hayes, got the gold medal. So with all my talk, with all my writing, what I want to avoid is that you collapse and you're getting disqualified in life.
Yeah. Well,
just to use that picture.
Yeah, that's a real good point. And the other thing is, we know a lot of times caregivers pass or get a chronic illness themselves when
And
they're
it's
not.
like an epidemic. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like an epidemic, even especially in the US. Yeah, as when the numbers are right, which I wrote, it says over 20 million people, 23 million people are caregiving a relative in their family, and the number is rising. It's not going down; it's rising.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is, I think, a huge problem, what is coming up there. Yeah. And even when you consider that more family members are caring for an elderly relative than for children.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah,
a lot
so
of
that is what really got me, yeah, when I read that.
well, and a lot of kids are playing that role too after
Yeah.
school, before mom and
Yeah.
dad get home, or it could be a neighbor, it could be a relative. I mean, there's and I did not know that until I was teaching in school. They asked me to come in and talk about this, and I was shocked how many kids, and they were shocked because none of them talked about it,
Yeah.
and it was really interesting and how frustrated they were as children because no one really gave them the full scoop because the adults didn't want to burden them. You can watch them for a couple hours, but we're not going to really tell you what's going on. And yet they are they want to help, and their creativity is, I think, way higher than adults in many cases, because they just want to jump in and try different things. And they really felt locked out. They felt the family dynamics, change. It wasn't focused on them anymore. It was focused, and then they didn't really know how to necessarily process all of that. So, having these open conversations, I think, is critical. And doing this at this time during the holiday is really powerful because I think it can really help make your holidays better.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing all your knowledge with us, in your experience. And, I'd love to see more doctors doing what you're doing with the families. I think that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
So wonderful. Well, in wrapping up, I hope you got as much out of this conversation as I did. And, I always say be a giver of hope to our audience. Like, click, and share, not because we're counting numbers. We're not about that at all. We just know that there are people in your sphere that need this information, and they need it from a friendly, trusted source. And you're that person to many. Many people you might not even know, but they're in your circle. They follow you. There is a connection. And it's much easier for people to click on that than to go to Google. They don't even know what to Google, and they also feel things are bias out there. And so, we just need to help people and make it a comfortable process so people know where to go to find information when they're ready, to pull it in. And sometimes they're not ready. But that doesn't mean we can't help the process along the way. So again, Wolfgang, thank you so much. Again, you can go to his site, and for 2 weeks, his book will be available. That'll give you all kinds of wonderful tips for the holidays. We'll have all that in the show notes for you. And again, you can always find him and his books on Amazon as well. So thanks again, everybody. Have a wonderful holiday season. And Wolfgang, again, keep up the great work. Appreciate you.
Okay. I will do. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you. So as always, check out alzheimersspeaks.com. Go to our free educational resources. We have a ton of things that can support you through the holidays there as well. And our sister company, Dementia Map, that has global resources. Again, both are free. You don't have to sign up and make a profile or remember a password. Check them out. Nothing to lose. Talk soon. Bye-bye.
Caring for someone with dementia is one of the toughest journeys, but you don't have to do it alone. I'm Allison Schreier, and my experience caring for my husband inspired me to create Zinnia, a therapeutic streaming service designed to support people living with dementia and reduce caregiver stress. Zinnia offers research-backed videos intentionally created for people with dementia, engaging, calming, and easy to follow. Whether you need to ease agitation, create moments of joy, or make daily routines smoother, Zinnia is here to help. Family and professional caregivers use our content to turn challenges into opportunities for connection. Accessible by subscription on mobile devices and connected TVs, Zinnia is simple to use whenever you need it. Because when caregiving feels easier, life feels better. Go to zinniatv.com and sign up for a free trial today. Use the code RESOURCE for 15% off an annual Zinnia subscription.